Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your AEW Dynamite post show. And man, there is a lot to talk about with what happened last night. Honestly, a lot bad. I thought this episode last night probably was one of the worst episodes of Dynamite that we've seen in all 2026. Really wasn't that much entertaining. Really wasn't that much story progression that much as well either. So, again, we will talk about what took place last night on Dynamite's episode last night and how I feel about AEW as well. But starting off the night, we have a Continental title eliminator matchup where it is Jon Moxley taking on El Clone from the Don Callis family. The match itself, I thought was a decent match, man. It was a back and forth matchup between Moxley and El Clone, with Moxley keeping the pace of the match. El Clone hits a moonsault off the barricade on the outside, taking out Jon Moxley. But Moxley gets up, tries to get some offense in by hitting a foot stomp on El Clone off the apron. El Clone then gets up, hits an enziguri on Moxley, but Moxley hits a devastating pile driver on El Clone in the middle of the ring for a near fall. El Clone gets up, tries to get some offense in by hitting a Pele kick, followed by a springboard moonsault to the outside. Moxley gets up, hits a cutter on El Clone. Both Moxley and El Clone both exchange in the middle of the ring, with El Clone going to the top rope, hitting a coup de grace off the top rope, landing on Moxley for a near fall. Moxley then gets up, quickly hits a paradigm shift, followed by a Death Rider on El Clone, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Jon Moxley. Hats off to Jon Moxley for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Prince Nana interrupting the show. Grabs a microphone, he mocks the commentators. After that, Swerve Strickland is here as well. Swerve then grabs a microphone, asks the fans or the AEW sickos if they missed him. Swerve then talks about Omega. He also says that he is back in line for an AEW title shot. Swerve then talks about beating the Elite, meaning the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, as well as Adam Page. Swerve says that he's moving forward with no regret. Swerve also puts the roster on notice, and it looks like Swerve is on his way back after the AEW World title. We'll talk more about how I feel about Swerve at the end of today's episode. Moving on from that, we have Orange Cassidy taking on Gabe Kidd. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Orange Cassidy and Gabe Kidd, with Gabe Kidd keeping the pace of the match. Orange Cassidy hits a diving DDT off the top rope on Gabe Kidd in the middle of the ring for a near fall. Gabe Kidd gets up, hits a powerbomb on Orange Cassidy for a near fall as well. Orange Cassidy and Gabe Kidd then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Orange Cassidy hitting a beach break on Gabe Kidd in the middle of the ring for a near fall. But Gabe Kidd gets up, hits a devastating pile driver on Orange Cassidy in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Gabe Kidd. After the match, Clark Connors is here. Connors attacks Orange Cassidy, but Darby Allin comes out of nowhere, and Darby then hits a code red on Clark Connors and attacks Gabe Kidd. So it looks like Darby Allin has some unfinished business with the War Dogs. Moving on from that, we have Kevin Knight taking on Mansoor. I thought it was an okay match, glorified squash match, with Kevin Knight keeping the pace of the match. Knight hits a Hurricane Rana on Mansoor in the middle of the ring, followed by Knight hitting a UFO splash off the top rope, landing on Mansoor, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Kevin Knight. After the match, Knight is in the middle of the ring with a microphone. He talks about Page and MJF's match at Revolution. He also mentions that he wants an opportunity at the AEW title if Page beats MJF. Knight then says that he is the future, the here, and the now for AEW. Some interesting stuff there from Kevin Knight. Moving on from that, speaking of Adam Page and MJF, we have Adam Page and MJF in the middle of the ring where they had to pick the stipulation for their match at Revolution. MJF has the microphone, says Page is brave and bold. But MJF also talks about the history that he's had of another former AEW star where they also have lost their chance at challenging for the title ever again. MJF then said he wants to do a coin toss for the stipulation for their match at Revolution. MJF said he wants the stipulation to be a one-way, no disqualification match, where if even Page picks up a weapon in the match, he will be disqualified. MJF then asked Page if he's a cowboy or a coward. After that, Page quickly agrees to the coin toss. Page then warns MJF about the Texas Death Match. Page says that if he can't beat a piece of shit like MJF, then he doesn't deserve the AEW title at all. Some interesting stuff there between Adam Page and MJF. But MJF, though, flips the coin. The one-way disqualification match at Revolution is going to happen, seemingly. But MJF then leaves the ring, but Paige yells, "Wait, I want to see the coin." After that, MJF quickly tries to get out of the ring and tries to leave the arena. But Jet Speed Bandito are here with Brody King to stop MJF. Schiavone says the coin was rigged and that he got an announcement from Tony Khan backstage that it will be, in fact, Adam Page versus MJF at Revolution in a Texas death match for the AEW World title. So it looks like Adam Page gets his wish with a Texas death match at Revolution. Moving on from that, we have an AEW Women's Tag Team Championship matchup where it is the Babes of Wrath defending the AEW Women's Tag Team titles against Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. Now, the match itself was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between both teams with the Babes of Wrath keeping the pace of the match. Willow Nightingale and Megan Bayne both exchanged in the middle of the ring, with Ford hitting a moonsault to the outside. After that, we really don't see much of Ford, but Willow hits a senton. But Lana Cross is ringside. She ends up attacking Willow with the tag team titles. The match ends in a disqualification, and Lana Cross and Megan Bayne then attack Willow and Harley Cameron. Now, there was news that came out about this match that, unfortunately, Penelope Ford ended up getting injured in this matchup. That's why they kind of pulled an audible with Lana Cross with the disqualification that she had against Willow Nightingale. So hopefully Penelope Ford is okay, but it looks like she did get injured in this matchup last night against the Babes of Wrath. Moving on from that, we have Mark Davis from the Don Callis family taking on Brody King. The match itself, I thought, was a good match. I think this was King's first match after Grand Slam. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Mark Davis and Brody King, with King keeping the pace of the match. Brody King hits a Death Valley driver on Mark Davis in the middle of the ring. But Davis gets up, hits a step-up enziguri on King, but King hits a devastating lariat on Mark Davis, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Brody King. After the match, King has a microphone and says that he is the most dangerous man in AEW. King then was looking for a fight against Swerve at Revolution, but Bandito also was in the ring, said he was looking for a fight as well, and Bandito and Brody King were interrupted by none other than Andrade. So it looks like we're going to have Andrade versus Bandito possibly at Revolution, and maybe, just maybe, Swerve Strickland versus Brody King. Now, there's a couple things I want to talk about with Brody King, and again, we will talk about more about Brody King at the end of today's episode. And moving on from that, we go into our main event of AEW Dynamite. It is a Mile High Madness match, where it is the Demand and FTR taking on the Rascals, Jack Perry, and the Young Bucks. I thought it was a good match. Kind of had a little anarchy in the arena vibes. Back and forth matchup between both teams with the Rascals, Perry, and the Bucks keeping the pace of the match. Perry ultimately secures the win for his team by hitting a running knee in the middle of the ring. Pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Rascals, Jack Perry, and the Young Bucks. Hats off to the Rascals, Jack Perry, and the Young Bucks for getting the win in this matchup. Couple of things I want to talk about with you guys, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, was it a good show? No. And it's kind of crazy, man, because last week I remember distinctly telling you guys that AEW has been on this hot streak for the past couple weeks, especially in the main event scene. They're red hot, and they're firing all cylinders. And I'm not sitting here saying that the main event scene is still not good. I mean, we still have some key players that are out right now with injury, that are main event stars. I mean, we're talking Keith Lee, we're talking Wardlow, Adam Cole, Jay White is also out with injury. We have some injuries right now, Will Ospreay most notably, that are out with injury. These are main event players, in my honest opinion, for AEW that right now are out with injury. And these are main event stars for the company. So while the main event scene right now is red hot, they are also at not full capacity right now due to the fact that certain superstars that are usually on the main event scene are out right now due to injury, and hopefully we see these superstars come back into the fold of AEW relatively soon. With that being said, like I mentioned a minute ago, man, AEW last night might have been the worst episode of Dynamite that we've had so far in 2026. There was no real storyline progression at all besides Adam Page and MJF, which pretty much was them picking their stipulation for their match at Revolution, which ultimately was a Texas death match that was announced by Tony Schiavone due to Tony Khan last night on AEW Dynamite. So it will, in fact, be MJF defending the AEW World title against Adam Page in a Texas death match at Revolution. Should be a hell of a match, and definitely a match I'm looking forward to at this year's Revolution. But like I said, man, it really wasn't that great of a show. I mean, yeah, we had Swerve Strickland. I think a lot of people were wondering what Swerve was going to say after the attack that Swerve had on Kenny Omega last week, which ultimately took Kenny Omega off TV. So I do want to talk about Swerve. I'm going to be honest. For those people out there that are saying that Swerve Strickland is not turning heel, get the fuck out of here. Swerve is turning heel. The shit that happened last night with Prince Nana, and Nana being a heel, which, not for nothing, I think Nana's better as a heel manager than he is a babyface manager. Nana came off more of this asshole vibe. He wanted to get his point across last night. He wanted to hype up Swerve, and kind of gave me the vibe that Prince Nana and Swerve are no longer taking anybody's shit anymore. And then we see Swerve Strickland. Swerve grabs a microphone. He's kind of, wishy-washy with the fans. He tells the AEW sickos if they're happy to see him back. But Swerve made some comments last night that kind of resonated with me a little bit, where the fact that he talked about the fact that his most successful time that he had in AEW is when he was more of this edgier, more pissed-off Swerve than the babyface Swerve. And I had to agree with him. When Swerve was a heel, it was by far his best run in AEW. It got him an AEW World Title shot. He had some memorable matches with Adam Page as a heel. Swerve is the better heel. And I think it's safe to say that Swerve being a heel was more organic than Swerve trying to be a babyface. It just feels like it's a forced agenda for Swerve to be a babyface. He's a better heel. Just like certain other wrestlers, like Randy Orton. Orton's a better heel than he is a babyface. You know what I mean? Drew McIntyre's a better heel than he is a babyface. It just works. And it flows organically. And Swerve is in that same category as far as being a heel and it being organic. Swerve is a better heel than he is a babyface. So for those people out there saying, oh, Swerve is not going to turn heel. Bro, bullshit. And not for nothing, there needs to be a heel. We have MJF as a heel right now. There needs to be heels in the main event scene right now. Yeah, we have Andrade. I get that. With the Don Callis family, Andrade's a heel. But you had the likes of Will Ospreay coming back. He's going to be the biggest babyface in the company when he does come back. Adam Page, who's a babyface. Brody King, who's a babyface. I mean, you need heels as well. And Swerve can be the top heel in this company. And I have no issues at all whatsoever of Swerve being a heel. Now, with that being said, he poked fun at the Elite, saying that he beat the entire Elite, including Adam Page. And he's going to have this more no regrets, mindset moving forward. So to me, Swerve is turning heel. And I think it's the best thing for Swerve. Swerve wants to go back after the AEW World Title. I'm going to be honest, and this might be far-fetched for a lot of people, but I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I can see Adam Page and Swerve running it back. I know some people are even contemplating Swerve teaming up with Adam Page. I'm not ruling it out. But do I think it's going to happen right now? No. Page right now is better as a babyface. I think Swerve and Page at one point might run this shit back. Now, that's not me saying that I think Page is going to beat MJF at Revolution. I see MJF beating Page at Revolution, even though it is a Texas death match, because the match to make will be MJF as a world champion taking on Will Ospreay at this year's All In at Wembley, where Will Ospreay will beat MJF and Ospreay will become the new AEW World Champion. That's just the vibe I'm getting right now. That's where I think we're going with this going into All In this year. So, Swerve is definitely turning heel. The other thing I want to talk about too, man, is Brody King. Now, look, I know there's certain people out there that are huge fans of Brody King, and that Brody King needs to have a singles run. Look, I'm not against him having a singles run, man. I'm not. I thought he had a somewhat decent match last night with Mark Davis. It wasn't terrible. But I'm going to be honest. Brody King, in my honest opinion, I would contemplate putting Brody King back in the tag team division. Maybe reuniting him with Buddy Matthews or Buddy Murphy once he's healthy and ready to go, or reuniting Bandito. Look, at the end of the day, it's not doing anything for Bandito either. I know Bandito might have a match against Andrade, which, if it does happen at Revolution, it is going to be a 5-star banger match. Absolutely. But you have to look at the entire narrative right now, meaning the main event scene. I'm not sitting here saying that Brody King cannot be a main eventer. I put him above Mark Briscoe. But if I'm looking at the entire picture as far as AEW is concerned, I'm not against putting Brody King and Bandito back together as Brodito to go after the AEW tag team titles. I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all. And I think if you're a fan of Brody King, you're not going to be against it either. I think Brody King and Bandito, they gelled perfectly in the ring together. They are former AEW tag team champions, and I think those two guys teaming up together can really run roughshod on the AEW Tag Team division, in my honest opinion. Am I done with the Brody King experiment as far as him being a main eventer and going after AEW the World Championship? Not entirely, but at this run now, Brody King has to pick up wins, and most notable wins for him to get himself back in a title picture. You know, Brody King was handed a gift last time from Tony Khan in this matchup that he had against MJF at Grand Slam. I feel like this time around, Brody King needs to earn it. He needs to have matches under his belt and notable wins for him to actually become a new number one contender for the AEW World title. Do I think that needs to happen right now? No, I don't. Because at the end of the day, MJF is going to have to deal with Paige at Revolution, most likely Swerve Strickland, and then the possible return of Will Ospreay. I don't see Brody King in the AEW title picture right now. And not for nothing, he shouldn't be in the title picture right now. So that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards Brody King and Bandito kind of reuniting as Brodito and going out to the AEW tag team titles right now, because I just don't see Brody King right now in the main event scene. It's going to take him some time to build up some wins for him to be a suitable number one contender for the AEW World title, in my honest opinion. The other thing I want to talk about too, man, is the Babes of Wrath. Now, I've talked about this last week, and I'm going to say the same thing. AEW's roster is severely bloated, man. I mean, they have a humongous roster for AEW across the board, whether it's for Dynamite or Collision, hell, even Ring of Honor. I mean, they have a bloated roster. I don't think we need to see certain talents, and I'm pointing the finger at Willow here because we're talking about the Babes of Wrath. Willow Nightingale does not need to hold the TBS title as well as the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships. I know that she's immensely over, and I'm not sitting here saying that I'm not a fan of Willow, but the roster is severely bloated right now. And with Willow Nightingale pretty much holding 2/3 of the Women's Championships within AEW, being the TBS title and the Women's Tag Team Championships, I don't think Willow needs to hold both titles. We just went through this shit with Mercedes Moné. You know, either she relinquishes the tag team titles, or she relinquishes the TBS Championship and she gives it to somebody else on the roster. It gives another woman an opportunity to hold the championship gold and showcase them on television. We do not need to see Willow Nightingale hold 2 titles. Now, with that being said, was I shocked with the outcome of the match? Yeah, for a couple reasons. Number one, I don't even know why this match was booked, because Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford already came up short against Willow and Harley Cameron recently. I believe it was at Grand Slam, and they lost. So I don't know why we're running it back once again with Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford for another opportunity at the Women's AEW Tag Team Championships when they already lost clean to the current Women's Tag Team Champions. Then that, and then we also had the fact that Penelope Ford might also got injured in this matchup as well. That's why AEW and Tony Khan had to pull that audible last night and have Lana Cross come into the ring and attack Willow Nightingale with the TBS title, which ultimately cost the match to be a disqualification due to Lana Cross getting involved in this matchup. At the end of the day, I know we have the Brawling Birds with Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor. I know we have Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. I know they just hired the Iconics or the Inspiration. I get it. At the end of the day, they don't have enough women tag teams to facilitate a tag team division for the women. They just don't have it. You know, and Jamie Hayter, I mentioned this about Hayter with the Brawling Birds last week. Jamie Hayter does not need to be in a tag team. This is a woman who's a former AEW World Champion. She needs to be back in the main event scene, whether it's for the TBS title or the AEW Women's Championship. We do not need to see her in a women's tag team. And it's the same thing for Alex Windsor. Alex Windsor is a really good talent. She does not need to be in a tag team. This is a woman that not too long ago was going after Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. But because Tony Khan and AEW have no plans for Jamie Hayter right now or Alex Windsor, as far as a singles run is concerned, Tony Khan's best bet was to put them in a tag team to go after the women's tag team titles. And not for nothing, if we're speaking of the Brawling Birds, their first match as a tag team honestly was not that good. They almost lost their first match as a tag team, to be honest with you. So, as far as Willow and Harley Cameron, I mean, look, I'm a fan of the tag teams. I think the Babes of Wrath are awesome. But Willow Nightingale does not need to hold the TBS title as well as the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships at the same time. There's other women on this roster like Thunder Rosa, Statlander, I mean, Christ, man. I mean, Shida, Rio, Mina Shirakawa, Toni Storm, to hold the TBS title right now. We don't need to have any person on the roster holding 2 titles. The roster is severely bloated. So I also had an issue with that as well. The other issue I have too, man, I got to say this, is Darby Allin. I don't know what the fuck is going on with Darby. It's honestly, it seems as if ever since Darby left AEW, okay, after the whole Sting stuff and Sting's retirement tour, and Darby Allin took some time off to climb Mount Everest for 6 or 7 months and came back, it seems as if Tony Khan legitimately doesn't have any singularity idea what the hell he wants to do with Darby Allin. Darby Allin has been playing second fiddle to the Death Riders, and now he's dealing with Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. Now, if you don't mind, remind me on how the hell this whole situation with Clark Connors and Gabe Kidd came to fruition. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's never been any kind of talks as far as Jon Moxley talking about working with Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. Especially Clark Connors, who just recently came into the fold of AEW. I thought Darby Allin's mission was to dethrone the Death Riders. And it's kind of ironic where on one side of the fence you see Jon Moxley, who's really coming into his own, becoming a babyface, is getting more power within the company, and Darby Allin, I feel like, is playing second fiddle at this point. I don't know what the hell they're doing with Darby. And to be honest with you, the whole shit with Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors, man, I can give a rat's ass about Darby Allin taking on Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. It's a fucking joke. Alright, I know there's rumors and speculation that David Finlay might be coming into the fold of AEW. Great, another main event guy. But how does this all correlate with the Death Riders? And I told you guys before, when it pertains to Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, when he won the Continental title, I thought the Death Riders were going to come in there and beat the piss out of Jon Moxley and leave him in a puddle of his own piss in the middle of the ring, ultimately turning their backs on Jon Moxley. But no. Instead, they're kissing Jon Moxley's ass, and now it's a heel stable with a babyface leader in Jon Moxley. So, no point intended, what is the vision here for the Death Riders? What the fuck are we doing with the Death Riders? And what the hell are we doing with Darby Allin? And why is Darby Allin not in the main event scene? Why is Darby Allin not going after the TNT title? Why is Darby Allin not going after the national championship or the international title or, hell, even the AEW world title? Why is Darby Allin not in the main event scene? Why? You know what I mean? I feel as if, honestly, ever since he left and was done with the Sting situation and Darby Allin left to go climb Mount Everest, when he came back into the fold of AEW, they had no legitimate plans for Darby Allin. The only thing that Darby Allin has been dealing with since he's been back is either Jon Moxley and the Death Riders and now Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. Can we get something else for the guy? Can we put him in a serious program? Maybe a storyline? You know, Darby Allin and MJF also have some unfinished business as well. There's a history there between Darby Allin and MJF. You know what I mean? I feel like Darby Allin hasn't even came close or even sniffed at this point the AEW World title. And why is that? Darby Allin is also a guy that can carry this company, especially as AEW World Champion. Why is this something that Tony Khan is stalling out on by not entertaining the idea of putting the title around Darby Allin? Why? You know, I mentioned this a while back with Darby Allin and Bryan Danielson. That match should have happened in Seattle, not Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. The match wrote itself. Both these guys were from the great state of Washington. Let's book them in a match. It would have been a hell of a match between Darby Allin and Bryan Danielson. You know what I'm saying? Like, where is the storyline? Where is the shit that makes sense? And last night, Dynamite episode did not make sense at all. At all. I'm done with the title eliminator matches, man, because they make no fucking sense at all. They don't make sense. You know, it's a shame because, last week I praised AEW. I said AEW verbatim has been on a hot streak for the past couple weeks. And then we get to this week, man, and then it fell flat on its ass. No storyline, no entertainment. Like, there was no entertainment value to the show last night at all. So what the fuck are we doing? You know, and not only that, we're going into Revolution. You know, we get the Mile High Madness match last night, which was all over the fucking place. And it kind of gave off vibes of Anarchy in the Arena. Hell, they had Jack Perry's theme song playing throughout pretty much half the goddamn match. It was very similar to what they do for Anarchy in the Arena. You know what I mean? Like, where's the vision here? Where is the direction that we're going into this year's Revolution? You know? Everybody was hoping that AJ Styles was going to be at Revolution. I can tell you guys right now, AJ Styles is not coming to AEW. He's going into the Hall of Fame. He's retired from WWE. And then he was recently on another podcast, recently, maybe yesterday or the day before yesterday, where he had stated that he is done. And that not only is he done, but he wants to work with younger talent within WWE. Most notably NXT. So there could be a very good chance that AJ Styles might be working with the young talent on NXT. Maybe be an ambassador for the company, maybe a general man. Who the hell knows? But he wants to work with younger talent in WWE. So I don't see AJ Styles working in AEW. I think as far as his in-ring career as of right now, it's done. Some people may agree with it, some people may not. Me personally, I don't agree with it. I think AJ Styles has a lot more matches on the table, and he's just opting just not to wrestle anymore. We already know that AEW and Tony Khan had offered him a contract where he would have been working very limited dates and had more time spent at home. But it seems like AJ Styles doesn't want anything to do with AEW. So I don't see Styles coming into AEW anytime soon. I would be shocked if he shows up. Right now, with everything being said and done, I don't see AJ Styles coming over to AEW. You know, we also get the stipulation of MJF and Adam Page's match, which is going to be a Texas death match, a match that is pretty much right in Adam Page's wheelhouse. So we're going to see how this plays out as well. But I'm hoping that we do get some returns here soon. We need Jay White. We need Keith Lee. You know, Keith Lee has been out for 2 damn years and some change. 2 years, bro. And my thing is, if the rumors are true and Tony Khan had froze Chris Jericho's contract, what makes you think he didn't freeze Keith Lee's contract, which gives him another 2 years for AEW? It's been 2 years since we've seen Keith Lee. It's a long time. You know, we're still waiting for the return of Jay White, Will Ospreay, Adam Cole. We don't know what's going on with Adam Cole. Britt Baker might be making her way back to AEW as well. Where's Camille? Wardlow's also out with injury as well. So they're missing some top names in this company right now that can really shake shit up for AEW. You know, they're not really firing on full capacity right now due to injuries. You know, is the main event scene still red hot in AEW? Yeah. But last night's show, man, it fell flat on its ass last night. We need to get back to telling some story, getting some more intrigue going into this year's Revolution. Which I'm expecting big things out of this pay-per-view at Revolution. I'm hoping for a Grand Slam, to be honest with you. They need something, man. They need a spark. They need something to get them over this hurdle. They need something that's going to facilitate them to get back to what they once were. And like I said, it's not hard because for the past couple of weeks, AEW, even in the ratings, have gotten better. They just need to stick to the program, man, and start building stories and getting storylines and getting people invested in AEW's product, and we get the ball rolling. We can get the ball rolling once again for AEW. You know what I mean? But last night's show was not that great, and to be honest with you, it was probably one of the worst Dynamite episodes of all 2026 by far, so far in 2026 for AEW. But hopefully next week's a better show, and hopefully there's some more storylines or at least more intrigue for us going into this year's Revolution. But with that being said, though, this is my review of AEW Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.